the four Kelifot of Ezekiel's vision. What I am about to explain here is entirely my understanding of the four phenomena that preceded Ezekiel's vision of the divine chariot. You may find it contradicting to the prevalent systems of Kabbalah, but I humbly present it as my own non-authoritative understanding, and I am my own advocate on this matter. The text that mentions the Kelifot is Ezekiel 1:4. And I looked, and behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, a great cloud with a fire flashing up, so that a brightness was round about it. The north, which is actually the south. For a Judean priest like Ezekiel, the only north he knew as the seat of the divine chariot was the Temple of Jerusalem. As the psalm states, "Great is the Lord, and highly to be praised in the city of our God, his holy mountain, fair in situation, the joy of the whole earth, even Mount Zion, the uttermost parts of the north, the city of the great king." This mountain, which was called the Mount of Meeting or Har Moed, in the uttermost parts of the north. In a visionary state, the reality is usually inverted upside down, namely, the north of the vision is the south of reality. In this case, it was the chariot of Jerusalem's temple that Ezekiel saw. And that's also why the mystics descend to the Merkava, not ascend to it. The complex state of what the Merkava was in the vision is a product of the juxtaposition of imagery from the tabernacle of meeting and the components of Solomon's temple, especially in the Holy of Holies. Now, let's get to the subject matter, or the four Kelifot. What I will propose here is that the four so-called Kelifot are all of mixed nature, designed to test and purify the visionary. The four Kelifot are stormy whirlwind or Ruach Se'ara, great cloud, which is Anan Gadol, fire flashing up, Ish Mitliqahat, brightness was round about it, or Nogal Sabiv. The gematria of the four words Ruach, Anan, Ish, and Noga equals 723. This is the same gematria of Baroket Egos, or the veil of the nut. The nut, as many of you know, is a standard kabbalistic term for the divine chariot proper, or the divine chariot itself. And here comes the importance of understanding that Ezekiel was actually seeing the Holy of Holies, or the Temple of Jerusalem. Because the Baroket, or the Holy of Holies, is not Kelifotic in an evil sense, but it represents denser vibrations of energy if compared to higher energy vibrations of the Merkava itself. As Margaret Parker states, the veil was the boundary between earth and heaven. Josephus and Philo agree that the four different colors from which it was woven represented the four elements from which the world was created: earth, air, fire, and water. The scarlet thread represented fire, the blue was the air, the purple was the sea, that is water, and the white linen represented the earth in which the flakes had grown. In other words, the veil represented matter. The high priest wore a vestment woven from the same four colors, and this is why the Book of Wisdom says that Aaron's robe represented the whole world. He took off this robe when he entered the Holy of Holies, because the robe was the visible form of one who entered the Holy of Holies. In the Epistle to the Hebrews, which explores the theme of Jesus as the high priest, there is the otherwise enigmatic line, "His flesh was the veil of the temple," or "His flesh was the veil." In other words, the veil was matter which made visible whatever passed through it, from the world beyond the veil. Those who shed the earthly garments on the other side of the veil were robed in garments of glory. In other words, they became divine. Putting this in mind, we realize that the four phenomena are representations of the four elements that composed God's robe in the theophany. Those are stormy whirlwind representing air, great cloud representing water, fire flashing up representing fire, and brightness was round about it representing earth, the container or the mother that contains all the other elements. And since the vision is the inversion of reality, then the actual spiritual order of the so-called Kelifot is brightness representing earth, stormy whirlwind representing air, great cloud representing water, and fire flashing up representing fire, of course. Noga or brightness is the most inner and the fire is the outermost. This means that Noga lies in the vicinity of both the Merkava and the other Kelifot, namely partially holy and partially away from holiness. In fact, not just Noga is of mixed nature, but collectively all of them are. The proof of this is that the initials of the four words Ruach, Hanan, Ish, and Noga forms the word Na'ar, or a youngster, spelled with Aleph instead of the Batah, while the final letters form the words Hanahash or Nahasha, a male serpent or a female serpent, namely Satan or Lilith. I will even argue that the four Kelifot have their most portion embedded in holiness more than the Sitra Akhra on the basis of two things. The first is, since Na'ar is Metatron, Metatron possesses Hesed on his right and the 14 letters that controls and averts Sitra Akhra on his left. Metatrons equals 314. This is the combination of Michael, which is Hesed, and Kozo B'Mukasaz Kozo, the 14 letters of the transposed form of Adonai Eloheinu Adonai, or Yohe Eloheinu Yohe. The second is when taking the initials of the adjectives of the four Kelifot, those are Se'ara, Gadol, Metliqahat, and Lo Sabib. These form two words. The first is Sag or Samek Gimel, and Sulam, Samek Lamed Mem. Sulam, of course, means ladder. Sag is a reference to Bina, as is known, while Solam is a reference to Zghir Anfin or Metatron, as the name Astam, one of the 72 names or the 70 names of Metatron. The last letters of those four words form the word Betula or virgin, who is of course Shekhinah. Thus, the adjectives are references to Nukva or Shekhinah, Zghir Anfin, and Bina. So, you have holiness written all over the so-called Kelifot. You have Bina, you have Shekhinah, and you have Metatron, but there is that small part which is Hanahash or Nahasha. So you have holiness written all over the so-called Kelifot, with a comparatively tiny portion of the Sitra Akhra attached to them for nourishment and to work as the guardian of the threshold, to keep the unworthy away by using the holiness of the Kelifot as an illusion, convincing the untrained that he got the real deal, the nut or the Merkava. And if any of you have tried a real ascension or even astral projection, they know exactly what the guardian of the threshold is. This is also the source of fear you experience at the beginning of a real spiritual ascension. But remember, this fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Another seal for the inverted reality of the vision and the mixed nature of the Kelifot as a collective is that the water separates air from fire, or mem separates aleph from sheen, while in our created reality the normal way is aleph separates mem from sheen. This particular setting, mem separates aleph from sheen, form a mystical divine name that Laban revealed to Jacob, which is yesternight or Emish. When Laban said to Jacob after he chased him, he told him that the God of your father, Emish or yesternight, spoke unto me. You can read it as the God of your father, whose name is yesterday, yesternight, spoke unto me. It's a mystical, divine name, but it is the name of night or darkness and the name of judging of the unrighteous and those who intend harm for the righteous. Now we take this a level deeper and we examine together the story of the four who entered the PaRDeS. In Hagigah 14b8, it is stated that the sages taught four entered the orchard or the PaRDeS, meaning dealt with the loftiest secrets of Torah, and they are as follows: Ben Azai, Ben Zuma, Acher. This is a name for Elisha ben Abuya, and Rabbi Aqiba. Rabbi Aqiba, the senior among them, said to them, when upon your arrival in the upper worlds you reach pure marble stones or the shayish, which in our reality is the floor of the Holy of Holies, the Holy of Holies in the Temple of Solomon. Do not say water, water, although they appear to be water, because it's stated, he who speaks falsehood shall not be established before my eyes. In his book Moach Gan Eden, the chief magician of Mystery Babylon says the following: our holy Talmud informs us that four ancient sages entered the PaRDeS. There are many holy mysteries here. The number four is a very critical, momentous kabbalistic number. Now, in Hayim Vital's Sefer Likutim, Parashat Bikudei Siman 38, he connects these four sages to the four brains or the four mochin of Zeghir Anfin in a very complex and technical matter dealing with very sublime, holy, magical operations these four sages employed. But I truly wonder whether Hayim Vital explanation is really the truth of the matter. Not that I doubt the complex mechanics of the magical operations he describes, but rather whether this explanation truly applies to these four sages. But there is a much more esoteric, simpler, more elegant matter at play here. The mystery of the four sages here is the mystery of the four Kelipot. Each sage penetrated a Kelifa. The first sage only penetrated the first Kelifa and therefore was unsuccessful. Since the first Kelifa was broken, the second sage only had to begin by breaking the second Kelifa and so on. I really admire the simple way that the chief magician of Mystery Babylon put the matter, and I can assure you it is correct. But what is the proof and seal of this? What I'm about to say here is my own explanation and understanding of the matter, not what the chief said in his book. If you take the initials or the initial letters of Ezekiel 1:4, you find them to be Waw, Waw, Resh, Samek, Beit, Mem He, Ayin Gimel Waw, Mem Waw Lamet Samek, Waw Kaf, He Mem He. The gematria of which is 610. The gematria of those 19 letters is 610. The same gematria of the word Sheish, meaning marble. Remember the marble of the four who entered the PaRDeS. and they are 19 letters. 19 is the gematria of Hawa, or the first feminine. Thus, the marble represents the single united feminine. If you take the last letters of Ezekiel 1:4, you find them to be Aleph He Het, He He Nun Nun Nun, Lamed Shin, Tau He, Waw Bait, He Nun Lamed Kaf Shin, the gematria of which is 1322, the same gematria of Esther Esther. But what does this have to do with the sages? What does the marble and the Esther Esther have to do with the sages? Now you can see the marble connection from Shaish of the PaRDeS and Shaish of the first 19 letters of the phrase. But what is it with water, water, and Esther, Esther? It's a tripartite mystery. It's an amazing thing that Rabbi Akiba was the one who made the following connection between Esther and Sarah. Rabbi Akiba was once sitting and lecturing, and the community, his students, was falling asleep. To arouse them, he said, "How could Esther rule over 127 provinces? It should be that Esther, a descendant of Sarah, who lived to 127, to rule over 127 provinces." This is stated in Bereshit Rabbah 58, verse 3. Let us read the coronation episode of Esther. And the king loved Esther, or Esther. Esther comes from Seter, meaning hidden. Esther, meaning the hidden one, above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown, or in Hebrew, Keter Malchut, in, not on, in her head, Berosha, and made her queen instead of Vashti. The previous verses reveal that the life force of Sarah, or the 127 years, rested on or in the head of Esther. The life force of Sarah, which is, or who represents the Partsuf Ima, rested as a crown in the head of Esther. And so Sarah, or Ima, became for Esther as a Keter, or as her crown. This is alluded to in the verse as the word in her head, Berosha, could be permuted to Besara or in Sarah. So the Keter Malchut, or the crown of Esther, the hidden one, actually lies in Sarah, or in Partsuf Ima. In this particular state, we discover that Esther represents Partsuf Leah. The previous conclusion is supported by what Esther did before talking to the king, I mean the 3 days fasting. She said to Mordechai, "Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast in like manner, and bechen, and so, wa bechen, will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish." The second part of the mystery is 3 days fasting is a 72 hours long, but why 72 hours that Esther demanded? Since Esther is Partsuf Leah, she extends from the upper part of Tiferet to the higher 5 Sefirot, which are Hesed, Gebura, Da'at, Bina, and Hokmah. Now the gematria of Hesed is 72. This is the first extension to Hesed. Gevura, or Gebura, manifests through the 216 letter name, or the 72 triad name of God, 72 by 3, or a triple portion of Hesed, is what is truly revealed in this name. Da'at equals 474. That equals Rab or Rav Hesed, great in mercy, which is actually one of the 13 tikkunim, or 13 channels of mercy of the beard of Arich Anbin, or Arich Anfin. The back of the upper third of Tiferet, and in the same time the back of Bina, is the name Yod He Waw He, written in a tetractys form. Yod, Yod He, Yod He Waw He, equals 72. And the front of Partsuf Abba, the higher Leah can extend, or the higher point that Leah can extend to, equals 72. The name, of course, or the filling of the name Yod He Waw He, of course, is Yod He He, filled with 3 Yods. So she extended from Tiferet, or the upper part of Tiferet, all the way to the front of Abba. That's why she fasted for 72 hours to draw all the possible hesed, or mercy, through all these parts of him. Esther, through her fasting, was working to draw down all the possible mercy from the upper universes up to the beard of Arich Anfin. She reached to that point. This is sealed by the word so, or then, which is Bechen, equaling 72. Only then, or only Bechen, only when she grasped all the mercy, or she drew down all the possible mercy, she went to meet the king. And here the third part of the riddle is answered. When Esther went to meet the king, she wore her royal apparel, in Hebrew, وَتِلْبَاشِ Esther Malchut, or Esther takes or wears Malchut. The Partsuf Leah, the hidden one, Esther, became visible, and the hidden Leah turned into Partsuf Rachel, namely became visible as Hadassah, or the female myrtle, Hadassah the Jewess, namely Malchut, visible in full glory, extending from the lower part of the ferret and coupling with his yesod from between his legs. Those are Hod and Netzach. That's why the king who lives in Shushan, or in the lily, Malchut, held his golden scepter, or his yesod, for her to approach him. He gave her the permission to come and couple with him. Now you understand the secret of Esther and water. The two waters are not the male and female waters, as some sages say or said, but actually the two waters are the secret of the upper female water of Bina, manifested in Leah, and the lower water of Rachel, manifested in Malchut. The two waters are actually one water, represented by the 19 letters, or the gematria 19, which is the gematria of the 19 letters of marble, or the 19 initial letters of Ezekiel 1:4. Sometimes those waters are hidden. Those waters are in a state of Esther, or Partsuf Leah, and sometimes revealed as Rachel or as Hadassah, without disjunction or separation. Part of it illuminates the upper parts of Zeghir Anfin, and the other illuminates the lower parts of Zeghir Anfin. Hence, Sag is referenced once, Betula is referenced once in the verse of Ezekiel 1:4 itself, and of course Zeghir Anfin is referenced twice, once as the ladder or sulam for Sag, and the other as the youth or the Na'ar for the virgin or for Betula. Of course, Haman and his wife are Hanahash and Nahasha, the male demonic figure and the female demonic figure, trying to oppose the tzaddikim, but they always fail. Another confirmation of the previous understanding is the very introduction of the Zohar, which is the prologue, verse 1. Rabbi Hezekiah or Hezekiah opened the discussion with the verse, as the rose among the thorns, Kashoshana Bain Hahohim. He asks, what is the rose? And he replies, it is the congregation of Israel, because there is a rose, there is a Shoshana, and there is a rose, another Shoshana. Just as the rose among the thorns is tinged with white, with red and white, so is the congregation of Israel affected by the qualities of judgment and mercy. Just as a rose has 13 petals, so the congregation of Israel is surrounded by the 13 attributes of mercy. Thus, between the first emanation of the name Elohim, which appears in the passage, in the beginning Elohim created, Bereshit 1:1, to the second mention of Elohim, there are 13 words in the verse which translate as the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and spirit. Genesis 1:2. These words surround and guard the congregation of Israel. In the previous section we read together, we have many interesting illusions and gematriot. First, Rab Hezekiah, the gematria of the name equals 130, the same as Sulam, ladder, and Astam, which is the name of Zegiramfin or Metatron. So Rab Hezekiah actually refers to Zegiramfin. The other thing is Shoshana or lily, the gematria of which equals 661, just like Esther. Thus, Esther equals Shoshana, Shoshana. As the Zohar states, there are two versions of the Shoshana or the lily or the rose, one high and one low. The higher is, of course, Bina, and the other is Malchut. As alluded to in the verse, Bain Hahohim. The word Bain plus the He of Hahohim spells Bina, while the word Hohim itself, or thorns itself, equals 72, the same gematria as the back of Bina, Yod, Yod He, Yod He Waw, Yod He Waw He, while Malchut is the congregation of Israel. But what the two roses have to do with two waters? As the text states, the two lilies or two Shoshana are the two names of Elohim. The first, in the first and second verses of Genesis, the word Elohim could be read as Eleh, Yam, or these waters. So Bina is water and Malchut is water, but they are actually one Elohim, one God, one water, single and plural in the same time, without separation. This is confirmed by the unity between Sag, or the name of 63, and Sulam 130, which is the name of Bina and the back of the Ma, or the back of Zegiramfin, in the following manner: Yud, He, and between the Aleph of the Vav and the Vav of the Vav, we put the back of Za, or the back of Ma, Yod, Yod Ha, Waw, Yod Ha, Waw Ha, and then we continue the name Aleph, Waw, He. This equals 193. That equals Nahal or Nahal Ha'al, the higher river. That's Bina in unity, or in enclosement in the Zegiramfin. It becomes this kind of unity represents the higher river or the higher water. and the unity between the Na'ar, which actually appears in the Talmudic episode of the Four Sages, and Betula. This is the unity between Yod He Waw He and the name Adonai, equals 91, which equals Mayim, Aim Kolel. Mayim means water, with one for the word itself. That's 91. So you have Bina and Malchut as two waters united by Zghir and Fin. What all of this means is that when you are approaching the Kelifot to break through them, you have one of two ways to approach the divinity behind them. Either you recognize the fundamental unity of the divine, even if it is manifested in many aspects, or you separate the divinity into minute components, making every manifestation a separate entity in its own right. The first way will grant you access beyond the veil, like Ben Azai, who ascended and preferred to stay there, not descending back again, and Rabbi Akiba, who ascended and descended in peace, while the other approach of disharmony and disunity will shatter your existence into pieces, leaving you either insane like Benzoma or separated from your reality under the megalomania of perfection like Elisha bin Abu Yadid. Now, you and I can understand the four Kelifot as what they actually are in our real time. They are the contents of the holy place in the Temple of Solomon that you have to pass through before you enter the tabernacle of meeting or enter the PaRDeS containing the ark and concealing it. The whole structure of the tabernacle of meeting that Moses erected was actually lie as a whole under the two wings of the massive cherubim in the Holy of Holies in the Temple of Solomon. The whole tabernacle was actually lying in the Holy of Holies of the temple, and thus you can make atonement and bring redemption. What I am saying here is that the priest enters the holy of the temple. This is the place of the white marble where there was too many candles and there was the incense altar and the table of the bread of the face. But beyond the veil, it was not just the ark, but actually the tabernacle of Moses as a whole, the holy of the tabernacle and the holy of holies of the tabernacle, containing the ark of the covenant. And this structure lies under the two massive wings of the two cherubim that Solomon placed in the holy of holies. So from the holy, you can actually enter into the PaRDeS and make atonement and bring redemption. This is what Purim or the episode of Esther and Yom Kippur are all about. And this is what the four sages try to do, as Lurianic Kabbalah teaches. As you say, the scheme here, the tabernacle of Moses lies within the Holy of Holies of the Temple of Solomon. And of course, the tabernacle is two parts. The holy, this is the PaRDeS, the actual PaRDeS reflects the higher PaRDeS that the sages entered. And of course, they were trying to behold or see the ark lying in the most holy or the holy of holies of the tabernacle. In the holy of the temple itself lies there the barochet or the baroket, the veil representing the four klipot or the four elements, the four classical elements. And in front of it there is a menorah representing Sag or Bina, there is the incense altar representing Zghir and Fin, and there is the Betula, or the Virgin or Shekhinah, represented by the table of bread of the face and the wine upon it, while the Nahash, Nehoshet, or Hanahash and Nahasha uh, are actually the serpent, the double serpent that represents male and female qualities that Moses erected in the wilderness, and afterward, in later times, the Jews uh, worshipped it as a form of divinity, and so Hezekiah or Hezekiah just make this connection with the rabbi of the Zohar, talking about the two Shushanas. uh, King Hezekiah or King Hezekiah destroyed this Nahash Nehoshet and prevented the people of God from worshipping it as a form of divinity. The process of breaking the Kelifot is in fact the process of consecrating the temple furniture one by one in the holy of the temple, then losing the elemental garments or the garments of the high priest representing the elements of this world, going beyond the veil and coming face to face with the ark to receive divine revelation and sanctification. And this is the process of gazing at the Merkaba, which carries the Shekhinah. Another topic, which is also connected to the topic of the four Kelifot, is the higher form of the Kelifot. The four Kelifot are the classical elements, as we stated, but they are presented in their raw, untamed state, messy and destructive as they are, and they may be even satanic in nature. That's why we see the serpent or the Nahash there. But those are just the garments of a higher form. Those higher forms are the Hayot of the Merkava, or the living beings under the throne. If you have the slightest knowledge of the astrology, you will immediately realize that the four living beings represents four skies or four universes. A normal earth sky or a complete man contains just a single set of the cherubim or the Hayot. That is Taurus, the bull, Aquila, the Nesr or Nesher, or the eagle, Leo, or the Arie, the lion, and of course Aquarius, the man who holds the water pitcher, representing earth, water, fire, and air, corresponding to Noga, great cloud, fire flashing up, and stormy whirlwind, respectively. Putting the fact of those four skies in mind, we understand that there are four parallel realities or four concentric realities existing simultaneously under or before the divine singularity called the throne. And those four Kelifot we are talking about are just a dull reflection of those higher universes, designed to keep away the unworthy from further advancing through the upper four universes, or the universes of Asiya, Yatsira, Bria, and Atzilut. Those four universes are, of course, under the divine throne. I know this was a heavy meal. I prefer you go back and contemplate what I taught here, and I tell you all, you and I shall recognize that fundamental unity in our universe and the higher spiritual universes. And thus, I end my representation by reciting the Shema, confirming the unity of God and the unity of us all. Shema Yisrael, Yohe Wahe Eloheinu, Yo he wa he Ehad.